YouTube, it's Friday. Friday and I'm free. Nah, not really. Like, honestly, I never like totally stopped working. I got the shopping bags here. I got the clothes hangers. Stuff is just all over the place because I have been tremendously busy. I published 2 stories this week, and I thought they were good stories. I mean, you got homelessness in Los Angeles, a complete mess. The head of LASA today actually resigned, and I mean, I wouldn't say I totally saw that coming, but the writing was kind of on the wall. You can only mess up so many times and piss off so many people before it comes blown back at you. So Felicia Kellum's Adam is out. And then my other story this week was about the Department of Education and how Trump has slashed it, including its civil rights unit. And that's something I'm actually, like, unfortunately way too familiar with, from having fought my ass off at USC to fighting for Title IX. And I mean, I thought that one was worth reading. I don't know, it didn't get quite as much play as some of the other things. I mean, I know people want sexy news topics, you know, but the basics, right, of like how we make our schools safe, how we help our homeless population, right? These are things that are important, very, very important things. So I always go, like, sometimes I'm like, why am I like putting all this time and effort into all these very serious issues when I could just put out crap content like so many other people and be like, call it a day done, like just yell angrily, put up a few things, go blah, 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 and like be done with it, right? And like, unfortunately, like, we're living in an increasingly shallow time and culture in this country, and people are very focused on things that are catchy, like not necessarily meaningful, but like catchy. And like, that's where we're at. It's really not a good or helpful situation. And like, I'm not saying there's not people who don't take things seriously still, but like, we're definitely in a decline of seriousness. And I'm not sure how we reverse that, but I figured I'd come on here to talk a little bit, see if anybody wants to freaking listen, and life will go on. Check out this car. Look, this person is the Vetster. Like, I don't know how much that costs, but that's a fancy Corvette going there. That's got to be at least like 80 or 100K. And like, I mean, like, people are always gonna want, you know, the Corvette over the electric Mustang, but this is like where we're at. Like, it's one thing to be like flashy, it's another thing to be like really like meaningfully important. And I mean, I think that like for us to start to figure this out a little bit and get to be like where we want to be, clearly we have to like do better on basics, right? Like, we can't have an education system that nobody is happy with. We can't have a homelessness system that nobody is happy with. Whoa, that guy burned out, and he was just like, Toyota truck, get out of the way. And like, that's where we're at. Like, we're not serious. Instead, like, it's like kids running amok, who have too much free time on their hands and don't know how to get serious business done. And like, I always like to think I'm a serious type of person. Like, you know, I would go to the government meetings. I ran a university. Like, but like, so much of this is just not serious at all. It's child's play. And, you know, it's like kids, like, if you just want to like be on the playground and like throw spit at each other or something and like smack each other around, like, go do that. But don't like begin to pretend like you're serious, because you're not. Like, that's not serious. And I mean, I think to seriously start making the society, right, more than just like a desperate rush to money, but actually have some meaningful purpose, like, we're gonna have to get a lot better at journalism and about communicating things. And like, I'm pushing like 800 readers, but like, I don't feel like my readers are engaged as they should be. I'm like, you have to be more engaged. And like, it seems like no matter how much I go, like, be engaged and you'll figure stuff out, people just want that like snappy stuff. And I mean, it's one thing to want the shit show. Oh, he's going into that private country club. It's another thing to like actually execute meaningful change, right? Like this thing that right that everybody in social media is obsessed about. This idea that you're gonna take down Scientology. To actually execute that, you need a real strategy. I mean, I think the YouTube movement has been very good about doing that, but like simply going and like making a mockery of yourself, yelling and screaming, it's probably not going to get like the serious communication across. And like how we get back to communicating seriously is like really like where we're stuck out, right? Like people don't want to vote, they don't want to sign petitions, or if they do, the petitions just get ignored so often. They want to yell and scream. I don't know, how do we get things to be where we want them to be instead of just frankly a shit show? And like it's kind of like on us to figure this out, but like my job is to help explain, help figure things out. Clearly, right, there are things that are wrong, right? Like there's a great many things that are wrong with Scientology, but like we're like, I think this probably hit like a real like speed bump, was how to actually effectuate that mission. And I think that's where you're seeing some disagreement. And like it's not my job to like fix things for people or resolve them, but like certainly like this thing lost a lot of air out of the balloon and it kind of popped. And like they were all like trying to deny when I was like, oh, it was at the end. And no, it was kind of the end. And I mean, you can make videos, trying to resuscitate it, but the energy that was there is gone. Like it was a moment in time, it happened. And I mean, I'm like, do I even write another story about that? Like, I mean, I continue to investigate, things, trying to get to the bottom of some of this stuff. And it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't think they want that type of seriousness. I mean, people just want to be yell and be angry and have beefs and squabbles. But like, serious, like, what was the purpose of this? Like, that type of level of thinking, I don't know. Maybe other people will chime in and go, okay, like, like we were really serious about this. And like, here's how we get this back on track. Frankly, life goes on, right? Like you move away from things. And I mean, to the extent that like there's a built-in audience for that, I mean, it's impressive to see some level of resilience there, but I think a lot of people, have already, unless they were already deeply invested in that cause, have kind of moved on. But it's a beautiful evening out here. Get a quick little cruise on here before I get back to the rest of all the amazing things I spent my time doing. And it was like a fresh dusting of snow the other day. So life will go on. The people who are serious are going to be serious. The people who are not serious, I don't know. I guess it works. I don't know. I was never the cool kid in school. I was always the nerdy smart type. And apparently, like, America does not want nerdy and smart. They want the bully. It's Friday. I put out 2 stories this week. Homelessness policy in Los Angeles, shit show. Even beyond my ability to like effectuate change. And I'm really good at making, change happen right when people let me. I'm trying on that one. And then education department. Big collapse there. That's been happening for a few weeks. I was a little bit behind on that. Not quite as deep as I want, but still very, very worth reading. We will learn a lot about how the federal civil rights process was not working to protect people. Not from racism, not from exploitation, not from abuse. We have so much work to do to make this country be the place that we want it to be. And I think that like our ability to like actually execute that is going to depend upon our intellect and our resilience. And fortunately, like we're really just kind of like letting ourselves down so often these days. I'm not sure that the seriousness that we need, right, to really change things is happening. I feel like we're deeply not serious. So I don't know, maybe other people have different opinions, but like I feel like the people who just want everything to be a freaking joke, who want an easy win, right? Who think that like they're just gonna huff and puff and like Humpty Dumpty's gonna fall off the wall. Like it didn't happen, right? Like, you know, it takes activism that changes things, takes some real commitment, and it has to be about something. It has to be principled, it has to be purposeful, and it has to be well executed. And like if you don't do those things, the movement just goes pop. So I think that's what you saw, right? Because that's like what I know what people want to talk about, right? They want to talk about the Scientology protests and like, you know, like what has happened, right? And like personally, like, I mean, I've heard it said, and it's kind of true, like, you know, some deliberate actions were taken to get me off of that story. And like, really, if you ask me, it backfired. I just figured more shit out. And like, you know, I would really love to know, right, like more about particularly what supposedly LAPD is doing with the swatting investigation. They didn't want to talk to me. I mean, I think people heard what they heard, and I mean, obviously if there's an arrest that's going to happen there, you know, they might come forward with more information. There might be more news on that, but for now, that's, you know, it seems to be a kind of a wash. And like, certainly like, I mean, don't trust the police, right? The police are tricky. They, you know, will do things, you know, go one way, go the other. I mean, obviously, if police hand you phones, assume they're bugged. And like, you know, I think it's just like, you know, electronic espionage, right? Has gotten really common. But I mean, I don't know what the truth is. What is the truth? Certainly the people, right, who do things for the right reasons tend to succeed, but the people who are doing it for the wrong reasons, yeah, not so much. Go to DEF CON in Las Vegas. Those nerds can help you find the swatter. I mean, certainly, I think that there is an element, right, of, you know, counter-espionage, right, to any of this. And, like, really where I've hit a barrier, right, is the artificial intelligence component, because you can fake voices. And even if you identify the voice, right, you know, the question becomes, like, you know, was that fake? And like, that's kind of like what I'm still sorting out. I mean, I have to decide, right, if I actually want to write about that again, in a way that's, you know, conclusive, right, versus speculative. And to the extent that like there is something reportable there, I don't know. We'll see. I like to give LAPD or a criminal investigation like that, you know, a really long time to resolve itself sometimes. Like sometimes things go quick, other times they go slow. You know, you always want to play that long game. I didn't appreciate being targeted like that. And I think, you know, other people who were targeted by swattings didn't necessarily appreciate either. And then some of these other things I hear and like have questions about, you know, obviously people know things, right? And they could come out and say it. What is the truth? I don't know. But, you know, I think that sort of leveling is the stumbling block. You know, I mean, if the goal was to take down a major organization, right? Like you have to expose it fully. It's good to apply pressure. Pressure will, you know, to a far extent, right? Like a lot of pressure got applied, particularly in the last couple months, to say the head of the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, and the former head, because she resigned today, Dr. Felicia Kellums Adams, right? You had an actual, multiple audits go down, and like auditing is something that really, needs to be appreciated, right? It's not Scientology's false version of it, right? This is an actual process of checking things to verify, and when you find, right, money, conflicts of interest, pattern of lying and deception, of untrackability, you go, okay, how to resolve these things. And I think that's the challenge that, is out there, right? Like, it can't, if it just falters, like, totally, right? Like, you had this movement that you wanted to preserve, and you targeted, right, people who were frankly adding to it. You know, it looks more suspicious than if you didn't do anything at all. So obviously, I think some people have some, things that they should come clean about. That would probably help that cause, but I'm not sure, right, that like YouTube activism alone is enough. Like, obviously, there has to be boots on the ground. Catchy content is good, but you obviously need to have a principal cause that people are organized around, right? And how that gets communicated and set across, like, that is significant, right? Like, what is the message? And certainly, even basic things like having communications materials, right, that are consistent, are sound, have the support of different people. That is a simple administrative challenge. It's an organizing challenge. So I'm just going to throw that out there. I hope everybody is having a good Friday. Um, I got shit to do. I'm keeping exceptionally busy, and sometimes I just go. And life goes on, of course. I have so many different things I'm like working on. It's hard to stay on top of everything. And like, I mean, certainly anybody who reads the Substack sees the rotation of different topics and things that I'm after, right? Like, I mean, I try to do long-term deep investigation, and I produce long-form journalism. That is supposed to be rigorous. It's supposed to be, at length. It's supposed to be resistant to pressure. And what up, wild coconuts? The old coconut phone, right? Like, that type of like aggressive journalism is hard to do. It's really hard to do. And then when I have little punks, coming after my family. I double go. I'm not gonna help you, because like if you're threatening my family, why would I like try to help you? You know, like, help yourselves. I mean, I think it says a lot, right? That like, people have faded, people come, people go, right? This is kind of like school, right? Like, I don't talk to all the people I knew in high school, but I'm still friends with some of them, or college or graduate school, right? You meet different people through life. Time, right, is a test. One thing I'll say is that my activism in regards to Title IX in USC has been going on for a lot longer. I have been taking on USC over Title IX since 2018. That's right. I've spent 6 years of my life trying to fight to protect victims of sexual assault. And when you mess with me and you make that harder, that's where I get annoyed. Frankly, that's where I get annoyed. And I have literally ran petitions that have gotten significant amount of attention and like, signatures from serious people by the hundreds, demanding justice for victims of sexual, violence and abuse at the University of Southern California. I continue to fight this. It's something I wake up every day, right? And I go, that is not okay. That is not okay. That is not okay. Because, when you have a pattern, right, of a high degree of sexual violence, and you have a pattern of covering it up and not addressing it, that is deeply troubling. And I have personally appalling stories that I have told on Substack about how being negligent and being blasé about sexual violence leads to terrible things happening. And, I like to think that like people are listening to that you're not just like screaming out into the void. I put myself on, on the line, literally, risking my entire career because I don't agree with that shit. And it really pisses me off when certain people, try to dig into that and then weaponize it against me. No. And like, just because I don't get litigious about some of this shit, I mean, settling things, in court, one, so often is it's a waste of time. People don't, comply with court orders. There's a major roll of the dice there. uh, it's a legal battle, right? But like, I I believe in morals. I believe that there is always going to be a moral high ground, and that moral high ground should matter. So, you know, yes, I will spend hours and hours and hours talking about how the Department of Education Office for Civil Rights, you know, needed to be a lot better. It was not a functioning agency. For years they were averaging more than 1,000 days to resolve a complaint. That's way too long. What up, sassafras and Shabbat Shalom? You know, that is really, if you ask me, right, like where that bottom line is, it's that if something bad happens to your kid at school, right, the institution should be obligated to address it on its, say prompt, thorough, and equitable basis. The school should have to respond to you. Instead, across the country, that doesn't happen, right? You have a repeated pattern of institutions and schools, particularly covering that shit up, covering it up completely. And, not appropriately investigating things, not resolving them in an appropriate manner, instead often weaponizing the process to suppress the complainant. And that's where we're at, right? That's exactly where we're at. So, I mean, I spent hours this week trying to put out, a banger on that, and like nobody freaking read it. I don't know. I heard a lot of people yelling and screaming about me as a person without having done their homework. I'm like, if you're going to do the same fucking thing, right, that a corrupt ass institution tried to do with me, go away. Go do whatever you were going to do that's unprincipled in the first place. Yell and scream and be angry, be a scary person. And like, I'm going to go on with my fucking shit. Life is going to go on. If you want to like be cool, like be cool. But like, nah, there's a level. There's absolutely a level to this where I'm going to go, absolutely not. And maybe I'm just getting to that point here where I'm like, yeah, you know what, you can, do whatever you want. Throw in the fan bam, be strategic. But I'm just going to go, nah. Like, if you want me to like spend my time and energy, like I've spent 6 freaking years fighting USC over this shit, because I don't believe that you should, cover up sexual violence against your own students. Like, that's not cool. I don't know. People are going to believe what they want to believe, but there's been a lot of hocus pocus going on around here. And personally, like, maybe I just hit a breaking point where I go, shut up. Like, if you believe in what you're doing for the right reasons, you ain't got nothing to hide, right? Like, you ain't got nothing to hide, like, come on. Like, if you're going to be real, be a real one. Don't be a clown. And unfortunately, I think you saw a lot of people want to be clowns. And I mean, I'll be honest, some of that stuff has consequences, right? Like, what you do matters, right? It's consequential. It doesn't just happen and not have any effect. And, I certainly, think you see it right. That there are some very powerful forces in Los Angeles that play very, very dirty. And like, the legal arena is part and parcel of this. And like, I mean, I would have more respect for attorneys, right, if I encountered more attorneys who, really cared. But instead, I find a lot of very unethical people sometimes, who have, for-profit motives, who are dishonest, and who perpetuate dishonesty in a way that's really unbecoming, even collusive. And, I'm just like starting to skim some really collusive shit in LA that's going to be in a future story. And I'm going after bad attorneys, damn it. I'm going to go after the bad attorneys. Absolutely. If I think you're a corrupt ass attorney, I'm going after you. And, the frightening part about the education department was essentially you have an institution that has been corrupted. In many ways, it's falling short of its promise. That's cooking investigations sometimes, and that is not going to fly for very long. And so it didn't fly, right? Like, the education department got freaking slashed, and I don't think anybody's really crying over it. Even in the legal profession, and that says a lot, right? When even lawyers won't defend you, that is problematic. So I don't know. I think they just hate whistleblowers. I think they hate whistleblowers. They hate people who tell the truth. There's nothing so scary, right, as the truth to people who are dishonest. And they will do anything sometimes to manipulate, to control, to contrive, to intimidate, to harass, bully. It's like a game to people. And they play it, in a very gamesmanship way. And people are going to do what they're going to do. I was shocked by how many people believe some things. If your entire purpose is to slander somebody, how do you think that makes you look? I don't know. I think people just fall for stuff, and like, it's impressive how people create narratives. Like, one thing I've learned from attorneys, right, is that attorneys will create all kinds of narrative that benefits them, and it's a way of lying on paper. And like, it's unfortunate that like people do this, but it is a way of engaging in sort of pattern dishonesty. And I think if anything, certainly like what I learned dealing with the education department was that when you have powerful people, even the government will protect them. Even the government goes, I don't want to fuck with these people. I'm gonna have more headaches if I do, and even the government will fold. So that's where we're at in this country. I'm not crying over any of those attorneys in the San Francisco Office for Civil Rights. Frankly, I'm happy some of them lost their jobs. I go, you didn't freaking deserve your job in the first place. You weren't doing it. Like, government attorney who is corrupt, goodbye. And I even see him complaining about it. I'm like, you know what? Like, you got taxpayer money for like 30 years there. You weren't doing your job. I have proof that you're not doing your job. Your only hope, right, is that nobody will hold you to account. And that's where we're at. So, rest in peace, education department. Was taking 1,000 days to address sexual assault complaints. Like, goodbye, U.S. Department of Education, Office for Civil Rights. They still have some people. They closed a lot of the offices. Will it slow down things even more? Yes. But I think on some level too, it might force people at the ground level to have to deal with things more honestly, instead of, just kicking the can down the road and going, if I had a kid right now and I was sending him to school, I would be monitoring that shit myself, because you just can't trust people. It's really terrifying how sleazy and corrupt some people will be in any type of situation. And like, I used to compare it to Scientology. I would tell people who came out of USC and told me I was a victim of this type of corruption, like, just think of them like Scientologists. Like, it's a joke. It's a joke, because it is a joke. To manipulate people in a corrupt ass way is a joke. If you are as bad as the thing that you are protesting, what's the point? I guess the point is, money, control, power. I am not somebody who's motivated by money and control and power. Like, that's never been who I am. That's not how I operate. That's not what I do. Like, that's just not me as a person. So, maybe I will put out that story sometime. It will come when I am ready, right? There will be a conclusive story, with any luck, and people are gonna have to go, oh shit, that's the fucking truth. Zach got them. So, I don't know. People want to go after my family, want to threaten me. Like, at a certain point, I'm just going, not worth my time. Not worth my time. So, I guess it's just Friday. I should probably go do something more fun than letting people, have more power than they should. Because the worst thing that you can do to somebody who has too much power is ignore them. And Some people are going to get ignored. You're going to get ignored. Absolutely, you're going to get ignored. And all the might in the world, right? It's like David versus Goliath, right? Like, why did David take down Goliath? Because he had a slingshot and a stone? Because Goliath was vulnerable to getting, knocked down like that. And it happens. It always happens. So everybody have a good weekend. Be good to each other. Don't be Goliath. Be the David. Be the David. And life will go on, and hopefully, right, like some of this evil culty shit that happens in America, whether we're talking about the homeless service providers, the education department, or Scientology, or a political movement run amok that is currently crashing down the stock market. I don't know, guys. Is this going to go into a recession, right? Like, I mean, think about it like this. If there is a massive recession, right, which is what we're coming at, a bunch of stuff is going to change. It happened last time in 2009 when we had a huge recession. Like, a bunch of stuff changed. Clearly, these are not good times. A tariff war, it just shows, right, how ineffectual running stuff by bullying is. You have to have a different approach. You can't want to be the bully all the time. That is not genuine leadership. So with that, everybody have a good weekend. Have a good night.